Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, from production of Gore Call, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives after they put out important news. With us today, happy to have him back, Tim Daniels. He's executive chairman at AIML Innovations. And if you haven't figured out, that's AI, artificial intelligence, ML, machine learning. The company trades on the CSE and the stock symbol AIML. And for our friends of the S, AIMLF. Now, for those of you new to the story, you know that Agoracom's thesis is that this decade is going to create multiples more value than the last couple of decades combined with respect to converging emerging technologies. You know that thesis. So what you need to know about AIML is that they're capitalizing on artificial intelligence and machine learning with a focus on emerging companies in the digital healthcare space. Now, more than just lip service, because a lot of companies want to say things like that. They've already successfully displayed a proof of concept deployment in a study that was funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, validating its technology. Its key subsidiary, HealthGauge, is a patent pending solution on a custom bespoke personal healthcare monitoring and management system. And it combines, you can imagine, the latest wearable health monitors and leverages AI and machine learning. But beyond wearables, that's why I want to make sure there's a big distinction. This isn't just another wearable like you can catch out of any hardware company, just tracks your heartbeat and things like that. They provide a secure and trusted means for their clients to engage clinical resources and health coaching as part of their ongoing health management. And that's the really big differentiator. Real-time data capture provides fast feedback, resulting in better outcomes. And you can imagine, guys, for society, that what that does is help reduce costs and stresses on the overburdened healthcare infrastructure. Let's talk about what's new. Tim, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, George. Man, you did my job. Thank you. Goodbye. See you next time.
Well, I wish I could say that, but it's you guys that are doing the job, right? It's you guys who have done it, and it's easy for me to say it. So, since we last spoke, you've soft launched a new product. The original product is this one here. Everyone can see.
Correct.
The HealthGauge Phoenix digital wearable solution. Let's talk about that because I love the name, and maybe we can even see it if we're lucky.
Absolutely. Love to. Actually, I just got mine the other day, as a matter of fact. Hot off the presses. This is
Nice.
our latest generation called the Phoenix. It does everything that the Genesis does that everybody has come to love, including measuring your blood pressure, heart rate variability, ECG, PPG, sleep patterns, activities, steps, behavior tagging, and more. The Phoenix, though, does all those things, does them better because it now includes the latest and greatest biosensors installed in this, and the latest computer chips. And over and above that original feature set that's in your version, it also includes blood oxygen monitor, which is very, very important. Anybody who's a serious hiker, mountaineer, or over the past year, anybody who's had the misfortune of coming down with COVID will tell you that they've learned how important blood oxygen levels are to good health. So it measures your blood oxygen level, it measures your body temperature, it has 24-hour heart rate monitoring, it has a bigger, brighter display, a longer battery life, and so it's a better unit in every way. And the other good news about it is that it's at the exact same price as the original unit was. So,
what is that price, by the way? Because I want everyone to know. I know what it is, but I want everyone at home to know it.
Sure. Yeah, it's $150 Canadian.
Yeah,
and along with that comes the app, the basic app that is both Android and Apple configured, that gives you very immediate and actionable feedback that goes over and above the ability of the wearable unit itself, because it's AI driven. It's our proprietary artificial intelligence that drives that. And so the key with that is that the more data that's fed into it, meaning the longer you use it, but also the greater number of people overall that aggregated that use it, the smarter the AI gets, the more intuitive. I guess, a good analogy is the difference between a doctor who's, his first week out of medical school, versus a guy who's been doing it for 30 years. The guy with a few years experience under his belt, he's used that aggregated experience to now be a little more intuitive in making his decisions. That's what the artificial intelligence does as well. And so using the watch as a standalone, let's say if you're out for a run or whatever, works perfectly fine. But when you're in a situation where you can pair it with our phone app, it's that much more powerful and robust. And the third and final piece, which makes it, this complete end-to-end solution, is our cloud-based AI-driven platform that you can then share with your entire healthcare team, your doctors, nurses, therapists, pharmacists, and so on. And all your data is aggregated there over, days, weeks, months, years. And so the doctors have the ability to see long-term patterns forming in your health. And you, as a user, have the ability to start making some, very immediate and actionable changes in your lifestyle when you see some parameters from your health biometrics that aren't quite what they should be.
And this is head and shoulders above. This is not an incremental gain over what I would get if I was wearing an Apple Watch that also had some of these things inside, or a Samsung watch. This is head and shoulders above. But at the same time, part two to that question is, you're not competing with them. You're not trying to convince George and Mary and a million other people to buy AIML, the Phoenix versus an Apple Watch.
That's
Your
right.
model is B2B. So first, let's talk about head and shoulders, and then let's talk about how the business model is just completely superior and better.
Sure, you're absolutely right. So while we do have, our hardware that we're happy to sell you, and we've got an e-commerce site set up, our business model is B2B. That's our primary focus. And we know that we'll never be, nor should we ever try to compete with the Apple Watches of the world and the Fitbits and the Googles and so on. In fact, quite the opposite. Over the course of the balance of this year, we'll be synchronizing our cloud-based AI platform with each one of those pieces of hardware. So if you're wearing your Apple Watch and you still want the benefits that our platform provides, we can do it, or your Fitbit or your Samsung watch, and so on and so forth. So what our sweet spot is aggregating that data, regardless of the source, using our AI magic to provide you with some very meaningful, intuitive, and actionable information that can help change your health outcomes, as opposed to go down to the Apple store and buy an Apple Watch and ask the 18-year-old salesman, how do I feed over the ECG data, to my medical team? And he'll look at you for a minute and then say, would you like an iPad to go with that, sir? I mean, it's a retail product, and that's fine. They're good at what they do, and we're not trying to compete against that. But we go the step beyond for people who are serious about, taking some meaningful action to improve their health.
But your business model, and this is the part I love, is
absolutely
there are millions of serious people. There are millions of people who say, hey, I'm going to pay a little more to have the Phoenix, for example. But you're not spending the millions and tens of millions it takes to reach George and Mary and Bob. You've got partners, a B2B model. So let's talk about that. And because we've talked about it before, where are you in that B2B model now? As far as you get test pilots coming or what might be happening.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for reminding me of that. Absolutely. Our business model is B2B through channel partners, meaning partnering with either government payers, or it might be ACOs or HMOs or large hospitals, or Fortune 500 companies. There's a lot of companies out there that spend, you know, a tremendous amount of money on their employee well-being and healthcare. You know, one example that I like to quote is Starbucks. They spend per employee more money on providing that employee health care than they do in buying coffee beans to sell to you and I. So the healthcare is a growing concern amongst employers and of course insurance companies and government insurers and other health providers. That's our market. That's our sweet spot. It's because those organizations have realized that the traditional healthcare model, where we wait for somebody to, you know, have a major heart attack before we take some action towards doing something about the well-being of that individual, is not. It's not a good business model. And health insurers globally, whether it's you know, government insurance programs like you find in Europe, blended plans like you find in Canada, or completely privatized plans like the US. The one thing that all those different systems have in common is that they're all complaining about the skyrocketing cost and the diminishing care to the end user. And so everybody wants to improve the outcomes but reduce the costs. And
well, the old adage
come to the realization that can only happen through prevention. So a unit like this that costs the insurance company, you know, $100 plus a monitoring plan is a drop in the bucket compared to what it costs them if they have to pay out after the individual has a heart attack or a stroke or whatever the case might be.
Yeah, and sorry, that's what I was going to say when I was interjecting there.
Yes.
The old adage has always been, always for, I don't know, as long as I've been alive, and probably much longer than that, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. But
Exactly.
10 years ago, forget about 50 years ago, 10 years ago, that was really, really dependent on people at home being proactively healthy. And we know that that's just not a fact, right? It's just people sit, they eat the wrong things, they don't exercise. Now, the Phoenix, the Health Gauge Phoenix is exactly that, right? It's like, hey, we're going to give you an ounce of prevention because we can monitor all your health, which in turn, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, now makes your Phoenix an ROI product, not an expense.
Exactly.
I bought something that basically measured my heartbeat and all that and my sleep. Okay, great, but it's an expense. But partners like the HMOs, ACOs, insurance companies, employers, it's an ROI, right? They can keep George healthy. There's less expense, less stress.
It's a no-brainer for sure. And for the individual user, you know, harken back to your school days where when we were in grade 3 and learning penmanship, and the teacher would come around and rap you on the back of the head when so you're getting this very immediate feedback. Well, we're doing the same thing in a much more subtle way. And so when you're doing the things in your everyday life, which most of us go about and do without even thinking about it, most of us are creatures of habit, and it's up to us to decide whether we're going to form good habits or bad habits. Well, units like this give you that feedback and tell you that maybe this habit should be modified a little bit because your blood pressure is a little higher than it should be, your heart rate is a little higher than it should be, et cetera, or the opposite. You're in the middle of a weight loss program, an exercise program, or whatever, and you're seeing some immediate results, through this, and that reinforces that you're doing the right things. And so we all need that. We all need that coaching in some fashion, and whether it's the carrot or the stick, we do need that feedback. And once we're able to modify our behavior and stay on that new path for a few weeks, if you're anything like me, once I do something for 2 weeks, and it can be absolute hell for those 2 weeks, but after 2 weeks, I don't think of it ever again. It's just now part of my new routine.
So where are you at? More than just a great idea, more than just great hardware and software, more than just a great business model. You've actually got some partners. You've got some big partners that are going to help you go to market. Where are you at, if you can tell us? I know you can't be specific, but where are you at in terms of moving the business along now to, to get a pilot with George Com Health and ABC Health and so on and so forth?
Sure. It's work in progress. Quarter one of this year was getting our feet under us, getting listed, raising our initial capital, putting together management and boards, our initial product launches, our e-com site, and so on. When we turned the corner into quarter two, it allowed us to spend a little more time now that we had, the basics behind us, and allowed us to focus more on advancing our discussions with some potential partners, bringing out the second generation of the device, listing in the US, and so on. But to your specific point, yes, over the course of this second quarter and looking forward into the next quarter, we have several advanced stage discussions ongoing with potential strategic partners, and it's looking good. What we've come to understand, and it's not of any great surprise to us, is that when you are dealing with large organizations, it takes some time to get into their workflow and be able to move the needle so that you get to be a high enough priority in their workflow so that the agreements actually move forward. But it is coming along, and we are anticipating that over the upcoming weeks and months that we will have a number of starting with pilot projects, and then assuming those pilot projects go well, we expect them to migrate over into our first workable strategic partnerships or alliances with some of these
B2B
channel
takes a little
partners.
longer. It's not like B2C where you just put up a site and you can sell to George tomorrow, but you sell one. B2B takes longer, but if and when you're successful, we can't make any representations to whether you will or won't be, but it looks like you will be. You can make 10,000 sales in 1 quarter or whatever the case may be.
Exactly, and yeah, that's the charm of it. It's the elephant hunting. It takes some time, and you've got to be patient. But when you bag one, they're significant partnerships, and so we do have a number of those in the works, and we're hopeful that we can migrate them from just being productive discussions into some workable and meaningful first stages of actual relationships. But so stay tuned with that, and as well, stay tuned. We are again working towards some other acquisitions in the company, and again that
you have the M&A side.
The M&A side,
and you're still on the hunt.
Absolutely, and also that can be a bit of a workflow as well. It takes us some time, to complete due diligence on some of these companies and to negotiate the structure of a deal, and for them to feel comfortable that we're the right company to partner with, and also to make sure that there's some synergy between what they're doing and what HealthGauge is currently doing for us. And but we are making some headway on that, and hopefully, if fingers crossed, if things go well, we'll have some interesting announcements in the upcoming weeks and months on that front as well.
Well, here's where I'm going to impart some knowledge on everyone who's watching or listening. I've been doing this for 24 years now, 24 years and a couple months. And you have to look for the signals also, right? There are signs. And one thing is, you guys announced a new chief financial officer. Right. And if there's one thing I know, small cap companies that are in their growth stage, their early stages, don't go out and make big appointments like that unless they foresee a reason for having a dedicated chief financial officer. So to me, that's a bit of a tell. It doesn't guarantee success, but it means you guys are gearing up for either some M&A or partnerships and pilots. And now you're going to need a CFO. So I won't ask you to respond to that because I guess you can't say much more, but that's a telltale sign. Talk to us about the CFO. Why was it important to bring Dave Cross on right now?
Yeah, Dave Cross is very experienced accountant in the public company space. Importantly, he and I have had a relationship for over a decade in a number of other public companies, and he's a very capable man, and just as you said, as we are moving forward into the next iteration of the company, we need some folks around us that have some experience taking companies from a startup into the growth stage, and Dave is certainly capable of doing that. So I'm happy to have him back on board and looking forward to working with him once again.
Yeah, that was. I'm glad you got a chance to talk about that, because that when I saw that, I said, okay, there's another check in the box. Last question for you, big picture, right? Wearables moving into artificial intelligence, ML, things like the Phoenix. Apart from you and your company, what else are you seeing out there to reassure investors or give me more confidence that this is where the world is going? This is because I'm convinced of that. I'm convinced that, for example, that soccer player that just collapsed, Christian Eriksen, just collapsed in the field in that cardiac arrest, right?
That's right.
Those are the kind of things I'm assuming in the future. I've got the Phoenix, and I've had it on for a couple of years, and it's starting to sense some abnormalities, and probably I'm assuming we're going to be in 2-3 years from now, we're going to have a future where I'm going to get signals saying, hey, there's a 40% chance of you having a heart attack or some kind of a cardiac thing. And we've already deployed, healthcare first responders to you just in case. Is that where we're going? Is that what is it? And
clearly, beyond a doubt, more often than not, there are some warning signs. It's not often, unless you get hit by a bus, that just out of the blue, you drop over dead. There's generally a leading trail, and again, up until now, it's just gone unnoticed. I mean, there's a reason why they call the heart disease and strokes the silent killers. It's because people walk around with these very much monitorable symptoms, but they themselves are unaware of them. But that doesn't mean that they're not there. And were they available? Were they able to access something like the Phoenix? It very well could have given them some warning signs, prior to the event happening. One thing, back to your question though, is what gives us some confidence that we're on the right track. Every day we see more and more companies in this space, and I'm not afraid of that at all. I'm a great believer that if there is no competition, there's probably no market either, because I don't believe that we have such a monopoly on all the good ideas out there that nobody else has thought about it as well. And
chances are a lot of people thought about it and said, we're not doing that. So if you're the only person, you're the mark, right?
Right. And so it's competition is a sign that there is a market. And we do see a lot of companies generally in the space of digital healthcare. But the other thing that's very, very important is that if we're talking about the classic pyramid, there's this top-down mandate that we see coming about now on the part of governments and payers, insurance companies, HMOs, ACOs, all the different entities that we've talked about before. That is now being mandated, and so you've got governments who are dictating that digital healthcare will be on the billing system. So doctors are implementing it because for the first time they're getting paid for it, and so you have this top-down effect at the top of the pyramid, from the payers through to the doctors through to the users, where for the first time, and when I say first time, I'm talking over the last year, 18 months, and growing every month going forward, where there's greater acceptance by each one of those groups at the top of that pyramid. And in places like Europe, for example, now it's fully mandated and implemented and legislated, where the governments have passed laws that the insurance companies must cover the billing of digital healthcare to the same degree and extent that the physical face-to-face healthcare. And so, once you've reached
the shift is
exactly, yeah. Once you've reached that stage of the game, it's not going away, because the powers that be have seen that this is the wave of the future. This is necessary. It's useful. It's good for them. It's going to reduce their costs, but at the same time improve the outcomes for the users. So everybody.
I'm excited about the future. I see you guys being way ahead of the curve, which is great. But at the same time, you're already in the curve because you've got a product,
exactly.
You've got partnerships. So you're a serious player, and I can't wait to have you back, Tim, in the next, I don't know, sounds like potentially next few weeks, next couple of months, for more news out of you guys, either on the M&A or partnerships or pilots. But I'm excited, and I can't wait to get my Phoenix because, and I'm telling you right now, and for everyone at home, I'm making the Phoenix a Christmas gift this year for a lot of important people, and at the same time, a client gift. Right, send it out to people because it's a great tool, and what's better at the end of the day than help people out with their health on top of it. So I'm excited about where you guys are going, and great to see you again.
Always good to be on here, George. Thank you for having me.
For everybody at home, you've been watching or you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, your favorite podcast platforms. To Tim Daniels, he's executive chairman over at AIML Innovations, trades on the stock symbols you can guess. AIML, and for our friends in the US under AIMLF. For those of you new to the story, this is your part to start. This is the part where you start your due diligence. You know how we feel about the future of artificial intelligence and machine learning. You know how we feel about how it's going to impact healthcare. Look, guys, everybody who in the last year knows that telemedicine, digital health, it's now coming. All right, maybe 3-4 years ago was a lot of talk. It's coming, and AIML is on the forefront. Start your due diligence in 2 ways. One, get to the profile for the company on Agoracom, because we know this tech, we know there's a lot involved. We give you a good 10,000-foot view to really understand what the company does. And then, as you can see right above Tim there, head over to AIML-innovations.com and do a deeper dive, because if you're serious about the future of digital healthcare, artificial intelligence, machine learning, then this is where you start your due diligence and hopefully discovered your next great small cap company. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. See you next time.